I'm a writer and a teacher and a bunch of other stuff, and sometimes I edit books for free, but only when they're Twilight. Thank you to everyone who picked up a copy of my new collection of spooky short stories. Almost called it Little Birds again. Starlight. Little Birds is the other one. It's not spooky. It's just cute. It's purple. And thank you to everyone who left reviews on Amazon and Goodreads. You guys are the MVPs, and you mean the world to me. I do want to let you know that on Halloween Eve, which should be tomorrow when this video goes up, October 30th, we're doing a little special stream over on twitch.tv/HannahLeeKidder where we read scary stories. It's gonna be adorable, honestly. I know we're all sad that we can't do anything for Halloween, but we can, just from our house. So, it's a little moment for us. Come hang out. Before I get started, I do want to remind you that whenever I edit Twilight, I'm editing a document on my computer and it's not changing every other copy of Twilight. If you don't like this, you don't have to watch it. Get out of my comment section. If you do like it and you want to read the edited version, I send out the finished chapters as PDFs in my newsletters. Sign up link in the description. Where did we leave off? I smiled sheepishly, not with onion root. White foolish blashula? I didn't learn how to say that since last time, sorry. Yeah, Mr. Banner nodded. Were you in an advanced placement program in Phoenix? Yes. Well, he said after a moment, I guess it's good you two are lab partners. He mumbled something else as he walked away. After he left, I began doodling on my notebook again. I'm gonna cut that out. After he left is boring. It's like he walked away. We already know that he left. And then I began doodling. We don't need those starter words like began, so it would just be I doodled in my notebook again, and I don't think we need that. By the time we trim out everything that's not necessary in the sentence is kind of stupid. It's too bad about the snow, isn't it? Edward asked. I had the feeling that he was forcing himself to make small talk with me. Paranoia swept over me again. It was like he had heard my conversation with Jessica at lunch and he was trying to prove me wrong. This is really specific, and yes, he probably did hear the conversation between her and Jessica because he has super vampire hearing, but like I said in the last video, we don't need the character to know everything as soon as the author knows it. We can just let it be. If we take that out, now it's much subtler that he's trying to reach out. You don't have to spoon feed your audience. Not really, I answered honestly, instead of pretending to be normal like everyone else. That's stupid. I was still trying to dislodge the stupid feeling of my suspicion, and I couldn't concentrate. We can just take that out. We don't need her walking through it like that. You don't like the cold? It wasn't a question. Or the wet. Forks must be a difficult place for you to live, he mused. You have no idea, I muttered darkly. Okay, I have a feeling that I could just search the entire document and take out every single instance of the word darkly, because it never makes sense and it never adds to an image. He looked fascinated by what I said. For some reason I couldn't imagine. His face was such a distraction that I tried not to look at it any more than courtesy absolutely demanded. You know what I'm gonna do? Cut that. Why did you come here then? No one had asked me that. Not straight out like he did. Demanding. I'm gonna take out demanding. And I think I'm gonna say not straight out like that. I don't know why, I just like it better. It's complicated. I think I can keep up, he pressed. I paused for a long moment and then made the decision of meeting his gaze. What if we just say, I paused for a long moment before meeting his gaze. His dark gold eyes confused me, and I answered without thinking. I'm gonna take that out. I paused for a long moment before meeting his gaze. My mother got remarried, I said. I think I'm gonna take out got. You don't have to, but my mother got remarried. That could be a way that people speak, and since this is dialogue, I don't have to be super picky, but I'm gonna take it out anyway because my mother remarried works too and flows a little better. But Bella is clumsy and annoying, so having that word there is fine. I'm just gonna take it out because I want her to be a little more tolerable because she is our main character. I'm old-fashioned like that. That doesn't sound so complex, he disagreed, but he was suddenly sympathetic. This is what we call labeling emotions, and we're also doing it for another character, so she's projecting that onto him. She doesn't know that he's feeling sympathetic, so it's almost a perspective switch as well. So I'm just gonna take that out. It doesn't sound so complex, and instead of disagreed, I'm just gonna say said. Said is usually the better default dialogue tag. Because it's simple, you don't want to express your creativity or tell us things about your character or how they're feeling through the dialogue tag. You do that with dialogue and you do that with description. A dialogue tag is just there to tell you who's talking. And anytime you can exclude them instead and just have like body language or something to indicate who's speaking, that's usually more effective and makes it flow better. That doesn't sound so complex, he said. When did that happen? Last September. My voice sounded sad, even to me. And you don't like him? Edward surmised, his tone still kind. No, Phil is fine. Too young maybe, but nice enough. Why didn't you stay with them? I couldn't fathom his interest, but he continued to stare at me with his penetrating eyes, as if my dull life story was somehow vitally important. I'm going to make that a little less dramatic, so I couldn't fathom his interest. But I'm just going to say I couldn't fathom his interest. But I humored him. Or something like that. Phil travels a lot. He plays ball for a living. I half smiled. Have I heard of him? He asked. Instead of smiling in response, we could just say smiling too, or smiling full, since she did a half smile. That might be cute. Probably not. He doesn't play well, strictly minor league. He moves around a lot. And your mother sent you here so that she could travel with him? He said it as an assumption again, not a question. Sorry, I put a question inflection there. My chin raised a fraction. No, she did not send me here. I sent myself. His eyebrows knit together. I don't understand, he admitted, and he seemed unnecessarily frustrated by that fact. Well, his eyebrows knit together, so he seems confused. And I'm going to take out admitted because the word admitted to me, like, I feel like she's making an assumption about him, and she doesn't know how he's feeling, so she doesn't... Do you know what I mean? I sighed. Why was I explaining this to him? He continued to stare at me with obvious curiosity. I'm just going to say I sighed, or we could leave why was I explaining this to him. We'll take that out. She stayed with me at first, but she missed him. It made her unhappy, so I decided it was time to spend some quality time with Charlie. My voice was glum by the time I had finished. Take that out. But now you're unhappy, he pointed out. And, I challenged, that doesn't seem fair. I'm going to italicize your, but now you're unhappy, just to get that inflection right. And, I challenged, that doesn't seem fair. He shrugged, but his eyes were still intense. If she talks about his eyes one more time. I'm going to take out he shrugged, too. I laughed without humor. Has anyone ever told you life isn't fair? Okay. I believe I have heard that somewhere before, he agreed dryly. So that's all, I insisted, wondering why he was still staring at me that way. Bitch! So that's all. His gaze became appraising. She talks about the way that people are looking at each other so much, and it never means anything. Instead of his gaze became appraising, we could just have, like, his eyes moving across some part of her, like, his eyes moved across my face. That's him appraising. You put on a good show, he said slowly, but I'd be willing to bet that you're suffering more than you let anyone see. I grimaced at him, resisting the impulse to stick out my tongue like a 5-year-old, and looked away. Am I wrong? Are you going to look at me and tell me that I'm wrong? I tried to ignore him. I didn't think so, he murmured smugly. Anything this elderly man does in a smug way to a teenager is driving me up a wall. I'm just gonna end the sentence. Why does it matter to you? I asked, irritated. I kept my eyes away, watching the teacher make his rounds. We don't have to say the teacher because we already know his name, which Mr. Bannister? Mr. Banner? Who cares? That's a very good question, he muttered, so quietly that I wondered if he was talking to himself. However, after a few seconds of silence, I decided that was the only answer I was going to get. Okay, I'm just going to take that out because it's stupid and dumb. I sighed, scowling at the blackboard. Am I annoying you? He asked. He sounded amused. I'm going to take all of this out because him saying, that's a very good question, is like almost a little telly. Like, okay, he's confused about why he's obsessed with her too. So, am I annoying you? He asked. He sounded amused. I glanced at him without thinking and told the truth again. Not exactly. I'm more annoyed at myself. My face is so easy to read. My mother always calls me her open book. I frowned. Okay. On the contrary, I find you very difficult to read. Despite everything that I'd said and he'd guessed, he sounded like he meant it. You must be a good reader then, I replied. Usually, he smiled widely, flashing a set of perfect, ultra-white teeth. I'm so tired. What if we just say he smiled widely? Do we have to do all that? Mr. Banner nailed it. Mr. Banner called the class to order then. and I turned with relief to listen. I was in disbelief that I just explained my dreary life to this bizarre, beautiful boy who may or may not despise me. He'd seemed engrossed in our conversation, but now I could see from the corner of my eye that he was leaning away from me again, his hands gripping the edge of the table with unmistakable tension. Who cares? I tried to appear attentive as Mr. Banner illustrated, with transparencies on the overhead projector, what I had seen without difficulty through his microscope, but my thoughts were unmanageable. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that because, once again, who cares? When the bell finally rang, Edward rushed as swiftly and as gracefully from the room as he had the last Monday, and like last Monday, I stared after him in amazement. I'm gonna take out in amazement because that's stupid. Mike skipped quickly to my side and picked up my books for me. I imagined him with a wagging tail. Why is she such a bitch about Mike? That was awful, he groaned. They all looked exactly the same. You're lucky you had Cullen for a partner. Mike. I didn't have any trouble with it, I said, stung by his assumption. I regretted the snub instantly. I've done the lab before, though, I added, before he could get his feelings hurt. I'm going to take out before he could get his feelings hurt because, yeah, Cullen seemed friendly, or we could even say I added quickly to convey that. Cullen seemed friendly enough today, he commented as we shrugged into our raincoats. He didn't seem pleased about it. We don't need seem twice in a sentence. And I think we can take it out. Like, that seemed friendly enough. That's already a little passive-aggressive, in my opinion. I tried to sound indifferent. I wonder what was with him last Monday. I couldn't concentrate on Mike's chatter as we walked to gym and RE. What's RE? Is that like PE? Did we change it to PE before? I think we did because I thought RE was a typo or something. Just gonna change it to PE. Just because it's what I'm comfortable with. Didn't do much to hold my attention either. Mike was on my team today. Wait, what? There's a word missing and I don't know what it is. Oh wait. It's not. There's just a period. And PE didn't do much to hold my attention either. Mike was on my team today. He chivalrously covered my position as well as his own, so my wool gathering was only interrupted when it was my turn to serve. My team ducked warily out of the way every time I was up. The rain was just a mist as I walked to the parking lot, but I was happier when I was in the dry cab. I got the heater running, for once not caring about the mind-numbing roar of the engine. I unzipped my jacket, put the hood down, and fluffed my damp hair out so the heater could drive on the way home. I looked around me to make sure it was clear. That's when I noticed the still white figure. Edward Cullen was leaning against the front door of the Volvo, 3 cars down from me, staring intently in my direction. I swiftly looked away and threw the truck into reverse, almost hitting a rusty Toyota Corolla in my haste. Lucky for the Toyota, I stomped on the brake in time. It was just the sort of car that my truck would make scrap metal of. I took a deep breath, still looking out the other side of my car, and cautiously pulled out again with greater success. I stared straight ahead as I passed the Volvo, but from a peripheral peak, I would swear I saw him laughing. Why'd you say I would swear? I could swear I saw him laughing. Or we could say, I'd swear I saw him laughing. Done with chapter 2. Thank you for watching and thank you to my patrons for sponsoring this video. And like I said earlier, if you would like to read the edited version of Twilight, sign up for my mailing list because I send them out in my newsletters. Also, don't forget about our Halloween party tomorrow at twitch.tv/HannahLeeKidder. We also stream 3 times a week on the reg over there, so you might as well go follow. I've got short story collections if you like to read, and I've got Skillshare classes if you like to write. Check it all out in the description, and I'll see you next week. Bye.